Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. It's Nicole Scott from Own Your Sparkle YouTube channel. As you guys know, I love doing interviews, and I find these amazing, I'm going to kind of superhero, brave gray heroes that are out there just owning it. And I've been following Tracey for a while. Tracey Instagram handle, and we're going to put it down below, is Gray Transition Project. And you can follow her. She's pretty new. You just celebrated your 1-year anniversary last month. So first off, hello, Tracey. I get so excited. I just want to jump in, but thank you for joining from California.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited and honored actually to do this interview. So thanks so much, Nicole, for inviting me.
You are welcome. And you can see, do you see that beautiful contrast, that beautiful dark hair, and then the gray that is showing up? It's silver. And yep. So good. That's a year, just over a year. So let's dive in, Tracey. I've been following you for a while. You're showcasing just about every day your transition, your journey. You've got quite a bit of following on your Instagram. What was your inspiration to finally deciding I'm just going to let these sparkles come through?
Well, it wasn't easy. I wish I could say that I was as brave as you described, but it really was, I would say, at least 2 years of just thinking about it and being really sort of methodical in my approach to it. I'm very analytical in how I do things. And so I had these feelings about wanting to be someone, I admire so much women. I have admired for years women who have allowed their hair to be natural. And I just would watch them and think, oh, I could never do that. How were they able to? How could they go through that pain of growing their hair out? And look at them now, they're so confident. And I was so envious, but it didn't feel like something I could do. So I did a lot of looking at pictures, and when I started, I thought, oh geez, well, I have to have blue eyes, for it to look good, because the white with blue eyes looks so striking and beautiful. Or I have to have straight hair because it looks more together. It just felt like my curly hair and gray would look messy. So I started to then change my search queries. I'm looking for curly gray hair. And I couldn't find a lot that I thought, oh, this looks like my hair, but I just kept at it for really, like I said, 2 years. And I just sat on that for a while. And then in December of last year, I was on a vacation and just could not bring myself to dye my hair. I would dye my own hair every 2 weeks. Every 6 weeks, I'd go into the salon and get it done professionally. But then every 2 weeks in between, I'd have to do my own roots to keep it under control, which is really what I felt like I was doing, was controlling my hair. And I let the dye box just sit on my sink for a couple of days, and I would walk by it, and I could not bring myself to take the time. And I just felt, I don't know, it was like I started to look at that box and feel sort of resentful, and I could not bring myself to do it. And there was something that just kind of clicked in my mind, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so for you, it sounded like it was, it didn't happen instantly. There was a couple-year journey of you just sitting back, watching, be inspired. And then there's just something inside that, like maybe your intuition, you just listen to maybe that intuition to say, it's just, I'm done. I'm just done with that. Would you say?
It was almost, the only feeling similar that I can think of was like breaking up with someone. That feeling where you're like, I'm done with this relationship. That's really what it was. It was like I broke up with the hair dye. You're dead to me. I don't love you anymore. I don't want to be with you. But that was really the feeling. Like nope, this relationship is over.
I love it. So I think it's such a beautiful story, because I think that there are a lot of women, and in my private group, Gorgeous Gray Movement on Facebook, we've got quite a few women in there that come in and they've been watching for 2 years. And then all of a sudden you'll see them come out of the closet and go, okay, you ladies, you've now inspired me. I'm ready. And so it's not judgment. It's just like, as a woman, you just have to make the right choice for you. And you just don't know when that time will show up. I remember 33 years old when I was washing my hair dye out of the shower, which is not really healthy because then you let that dye like literally run all over your naked body. And I was a
Yes.
nutritionist and I was looking down going, this is not healthy. But I
Mhm.
just so was not ready at 33 years old. There wasn't social media. There wasn't any of this like, inspiration of people out there. So it took me like over a decade, well over a decade and a half before like I got brave enough. So, as I tell women, there is no judgment of where you're at. If you're just sitting back and watching, we love you, we support you. And I just say you will know when you're ready. It's just, it will be enough of a nudge, enough of a scream, enough of a like, I can do this. So now
Mhm.
I,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and I've been following you. And so one of the biggest questions that I get, and I'm sure that you do is, and I was dark hair like you, is I kind of regret not going cold turkey, right? You went cold turkey. It doesn't look like you've done anything. You've just allowed it to come through. Or do you want to talk about that? What was kind of your,
Well, so I started cold turkey, and when I started, so the pandemic actually affected the way I grew my hair out. What I had done was, like I said, I'm pretty methodical. I went to three different colorists when I first started. When I had about, maybe an inch and a half of root grow out, so they could see how much silver I had. And I asked, what do you think? What can I do? Like everyone probably is familiar with Jack Martin, the colorist. He's got these amazing before and afters, and it looks so easy, and everyone's hair looks really healthy after the processing. So I wanted to see, well, is there anyone around me who could do this kind of thing? So one of them, the first person I went to, said, oh yeah, absolutely, we can. Well, she described this intense bleaching process that she would do, and the time, 3 visits, thousands of dollars actually, and hours of time. So I went to another person who said basically, I'm not going to touch your hair. I'm afraid it will wreck your hair. So she basically told me no. And then the third person I went to said, what we could do is some low lights, and we can tone down that old highlights that you have, because there was some orange, kind of ends happening. It was that calico look.
Mhm.
So I had planned at month 3 to get the low lights when there was a little more grow out, but then the pandemic happened and the salons closed.
Right.
So I ended up postponing that appointment until I was about 5.5 months in. So I did get low lights put in, which means they were, it's hard to see, well, you can kind of tell this is probably all, no low lights, but then here it gets a little more faint. So she put in very fine, dark pieces to blend in from the roots to just cut out the heavy line of demarcation. And she also did a darker toner over the orange parts. And I had already started my Instagram, and I felt like guilty. I felt terrible for getting the lowlights, like I had betrayed the project, the gray transition project. Yeah. It felt like it slowed me down. I felt like I was cheating. Yeah. It was really a strange feeling. Yeah. So it has helped definitely for the line of demarcation. Now I feel okay about it, but it took me probably a month and a half after I got those lowlights to feel like I'm okay. But I felt sort of sick to my stomach about it. It was weird.
Yeah, I totally understand that because I went, I decided to do blending. That was what I did. So I like you went to like 3 different places, and the one said it's going to probably take us almost 10 months to get to a place where I feel safe enough to go through the whole process, right? And I was rushing it because I had a book cover that I had to get done. And that was my motivation to get to a place where, geez, it has to like look, good or different. And now that I look back, I kind of wish I would have had the half and half like you do, because I think it would have like sent a bigger message of, the natural. But, with hindsight, you think it has to look good and perfect. And so I kind of did the Jack Martin treatment. I was in a chair for 7.5 hours. Wow. I remember sitting beside a local doctor that was getting her hair done. She was well into her 60s. And she was so cute. She had seen that last kind of 2.5 hours because she was getting all of her stuff done and she was covering her gray hair. And she's like, I am going to miss dinner. I am going to wait here and I am going to watch the final folding. I am just so in awe of what you're doing. I can't believe you sat here for 7.5 hours. I'm like, either can I, and my bum is not happy right now.
Yeah, I
Right?
know. I know. It's so true. One thing, my big takeaway from that whole experience, was kind of like you described at the beginning. When you're ready, to try it. And I think, however you can get through the process, I've let go of that own judgment of myself for getting the low lights and the toner, because it's what I needed to do to see if I could do it. I don't know if I had a really strong, demarcation line, if I would have continued.
Yeah.
So it was just part of the journey, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's why
Yeah.
it's kind of like, as I was writing my book and going through, yeah, I spent $2,500 to attempt to blend it. Like, oh, wouldn't have done
Mhm.
that, just like I would have went on a really nice trip with that $2,500, but you go through this process of like the learning. I look at some of our other silver sisters that like have shaved her head and just like
Mhm.
we started at the same time and her length is exactly the same as my length. And she shaved her head and saved herself $2,500 and learned to love herself bald. Like talk about like
Yeah.
self-discovery there. So I guess
Oh
our
yeah.
message is there's no one right way. You got to go down the journey
Yeah.
and you learn from it, right? You learn from it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so this journey that you've been on, what have you learned the most about yourself?
Gosh, I feel like I've learned so many things. One is that just that patience is the key to this whole thing. And while one day, you might feel like, oh, I look terrible, or I can't believe I'm doing this. What was I thinking? The next day you look at yourself and go, wow, I'm doing something here. Like I look okay, or I look good. So it's sort of a roller coaster, and just sitting with that, knowing that there's nothing that you have to do immediately. So
Mhm.
there's some lesson in patience.
Yeah.
um, the other thing is, it's manifesting, this transition is manifesting in all different areas of my life, and I do feel this sort of confidence, that surprises me
Mhm.
in all different kinds of ways. It's like, this is who I am. I feel like myself in this way that I haven't before. I think I underestimated, you know at the time when I stopped, I thought I was dealing with, money,
Mhm.
saving time, and saving myself from chemicals. But the other thing that I uncovered was, um, there is something about that fear that's there when you're covering your roots. People are going to see how old I am. People are going to see
Right.
that I'm doing something that's not natural. This isn't all just me.
Yeah.
I'm doing all this work. And um and for some reason that feels different to me than makeup. So just feeling like, yeah, I'm going to let myself be myself and let people see that probably I'm in my 50s, or whatever people want to guess when they see gray
Mhm.
hair. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I love that part of it. So to me, that's the biggest thing, just like that relief and the freedom from, the scheduling. Well, okay, if I wash my hair on Monday, or I dye my hair on Monday, then I could probably wear my hair back on Tuesday. But after Thursday, I probably have to wear my hair down. Like, there's so much planning and
Mhm.
negotiating with your own head of hair when
Yeah.
you're covering roots, that it takes up a lot of mental space.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like I think for a lot of women they don't realize that that constant worry about, for me I remember being a busy, full-time mama bear, raising a
Mhm.
couple kids and going like I don't even know when in my calendar I'm going to get a chance to go to the beauty salon. So I'm going to do
Yep.
a cheat and you're spraying stuff and
Yep.
you remember the horrible marks that you get like
Hmm.
you go to the gym, you put your
Yep.
hair in a ponytail and you like embarrassingly see all the stains. So I remember I'd be
Yep.
like, try not to stain my skin. And then at the end
Yeah.
of I'm going, do you have anything like to get this off? And she'd be like scrubbing it and then it was
Yes.
all red. and it still was stained, and that would take like, and I'm going, that can't be good. Like that
Yeah.
can't be good. And I was actually
No.
more embarrassed of the mark than actually my grade.
Oh,
I was more embarrassed about walking around with this embarrassing stained skin
yeah.
than actually, that. So yeah, the freedom for sure. So I
Hmm.
would say, as we close off, usually the last question I like to ask is, because when people get added to my Gorgeous Gray movement, I have 3 questions. And of course, the last question is, what is your biggest fear? So typically the answers are that I'm not going to get the support, from my partner or,
Hmm.
my kids, that I'm going to look older than I am, and maybe not, so good, or that I'm going to be invisible. Do you want to talk to that a little bit about your journey on those kind of top fears and how you've been able to maybe overcome them on on that level?
So I definitely have all of those fears at some point or another during this journey, especially at the beginning, the early stages. And what I learned, again, it's around that patience lesson. I think the first thing to do is just don't ask anyone what they think. Don't go around soliciting opinions. What do you think of me growing out my hair? Do you think this is a good idea? How do you think I look? How do you think I will look? Because it it ultimately doesn't matter. And people are going to say their own fears back to you, and you're going to hear that mirrored. So, my friends, my family, I think, they were very supportive, but also I think like, oh, I don't know, I don't know how it's going to go. So I just didn't ask anybody really I told them what I was doing, but I didn't ask, what do you think about that? So that was really helpful, because I just didn't want to hear the answer. And I think this is not, I think there's a fundamental difference here with men and women in this regard. I think men they can't really understand what we're doing when we're dyeing our hair and why. And I think it's like, I think they don't really know how many women dye their hair. I think they don't know that a lot of women have gray hair under their dye. And that's just, I don't know, it's a very literal approach to people's appearance. And so the idea of imagining, what it will look like for their partner, their wife, is hard. And it's not because they're not capable, it's just that they don't understand it as well, I think, as we do. So
Yeah.
I just think it's hard then to ask someone what they think or to be supportive when they can't envision what it is you're doing or why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that point. I remember when I got my first negative comment at a Christmas party. So I was about 2.5 months, and it was a male in the kitchen, and he commented, and he goes, "You're not growing your hair out, are you?"
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he's in his mid-50s, and he's like salt and pepper. He's got this gray goatee, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
"So
know.
you can do it, but I can't. Can you help me understand that? Because I'm really confused." He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to look so horrible. It's going to age you." And he just went on and
Hmm.
on. And, I was a little upset by it. But then when I started to dig in, I was like, what is his fear? Maybe he
Hmm.
didn't have any mentors. Maybe there were no mentors in his life. Maybe the only person he can think of as gray is maybe his grandma, that maybe never showcased health or wellness or vitality, and lost, a parent or a grandparent way too early, and made the connection. So I had to bring some level of compassion for our men, is if they didn't
Hmm.
have any great role models to go, wow, you can still look awesome, and be that color, and be, live into your hundreds, with
Right.
vitality, and that
Be
this doesn't
sexy.
be
Yeah.
sexy. Exactly. So great advice. I love this interview, and I think it's really going to benefit a lot of women when they hear. Just want to thank you, Tracey, for showing up and gifting us with this story that we're going to get out to the world, and and just impact women so that they can embrace. And I love what you did. I love the color. I love the blend. It looks so good on you. And I think that when we get lighter around here, it softens us. It really
Hmm.
softens our face, and seeing that on you is just so beautiful. So thank you again for your time, and thank you for tuning in to the YouTube channel Own Your Sparkle. And make sure you like this video, as well as sharing it with your friends that are curious about going gray, or maybe they're in transition and need some inspiration. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nicole.